the Las Vegas Convention Center, that's a good thing. Okay, let's get it started. Thanks very much, everyone, for coming. This session is about collaboration and workspaces for tomorrow. My name is David Danto. I'm going to be moderating it. And you're here at a session that's sponsored and presented by the IMCCA. Who here are IMCCA members? That's pathetic. That's terrible. Interactive, Multimedia and Collaborative Communications Association has been around for over a decade at this point now, right? And membership is free. There's a booth downstairs. They're the ones that present the entire Unified Collaboration and Communications Pavilion. Membership for end users is free. Free. You don't have to pay a thing. Go downstairs, sign up. You can get things going. And we do a lot of events like this with InfoComm as a partner during the year. Booth N2021. Please become a member. This is me. This is all the information my family doesn't even care about knowing about me. I've been doing whatever it is I'm doing for 38 years now. Just ignore all of it. Just to take away a couple of quick things. I was an end user for everything but the last 5 years of my career. So I sat in the end user chair, dealt with all the manufacturers here, did what I needed to do. Should you want to know anything about me, read into my articles, right down there, type that into any browser, danto.info. More information than, like I said, my family cares about. But if you're tweeting today, that's my Twitter handle, NJ David. Take pictures, say anything you like you heard that you didn't like that you heard. By all means, get social. Okay, the audience participation time. Ready to raise your hands? Who's working right now? Perfect, right answer, you guys get it. A couple of quiz questions. Is he working? Go ahead, speak up. Yes, no? Yes. Yeah, okay, good. What about her? Is she working? Yes. You guys have been through this before, haven't you? He was at the airport on my way in, right? He's working, definitely, working really hard. What about him? That's his office. That's the new Millennium office. What about them in the coffee shop? Are they working? Yeah. No, oh, we got a couple of no's there. What about soccer mom, soccer dad?
Yes.
They working?
Absolutely.
The answer to all these questions is yes, because our definition of work needs to change. And you may or may not have noticed it, but our definition of work has already changed. And if there's nothing else you remember from this session, my wacky pins or what somebody else says on the panel, remember that. Remember the concept of change. Change is happening now in the technology industry and in all industries faster than it has ever happened before. Something that John Chambers said 2 or 3 years ago, and it's been quoted a number of times, and I saw this was CES 2015, here actually. He had said that in 10 years, 40% of the Fortune 100 companies, the 100 largest companies, most successful companies, Fortune 100 list, 40% of them not only won't be on the list, they won't exist in 10 years. 40% of the best companies are going away. And everybody laughed and thought it was just the kind of thing that John Chambers always says, but think about it. Would you want to own a record store today? Or own a Yellow Pages? Or Yellow Pages franchise? The largest temporary lodging company in the world doesn't own any hotels. The largest transportation company in the world doesn't own any vehicles. This change is happening now, fast. And if you, from a technology support company or an end user company, are not changing what you're doing, you're making a huge mistake, because somebody else is changing it in your industry for you. Think about your smart device. Everyone here, raise your hands. Who's got a mobile with them? At least one. Tablet? Okay. These things used to be fun, right? We'd call home, we'd tell people that we were late. They were a convenience. You couldn't live without it now. That's got my appointments on it. It's got my calendar invitations. It's got my GPS, so I know how to get to the client's office. These are not conveniences anymore. They're dependencies. We depend on this technology as part of life. And organizations that aren't adapting to that way of life for people, the way things exist, are missing a huge opportunity, because if they're not, somebody down the block from them is, as I said. It's another way to look at it. Anybody ever work in a building like that? I did. It could be AT&T corporate headquarters, 195 Broadway in New York City. Executives at the top, the sales floor, the legal floor, facilities floor. 1980s, 1970s. That's what it's like working today. Your colleagues are in another city, or another state, or in another country. And if you're using collaboration plans and technologies and building meeting rooms and AV spaces for this, when we work this way, you're dead. It's over. What we call this in my company is Workspaces for Tomorrow, but we're not the people that invented that name. There are lots of other names, smarter working. The whole idea is work is what you do, not where you go. Smarter working has these 4 basic requirements, and I'm going to go through them very quickly so I can give you the idea, and then we'll get to our panelists. Behavior. I don't know if anybody recognizes this quote from Google's ex-CFO, Patrick Pichette, talking about magic. Maybe in the workplace where you work right now, they talk about the magic. People will bump into each other in the hallway and there'll be this magic, and they'll collaborate, and it'll be wonderful, and they'll be in the cafeteria. My answer to that is, how does the magic happen when I'm in Las Vegas and my colleagues in Chicago or London? Are all of a sudden our company's not going to be magical? The reality is, remote working is the norm. Our colleagues aren't in the same building with us anymore. And if we're talking about collaborating with this magic, bumping into each other in the hallway when there aren't any hallways, we're making a terrible mistake. This is what working used to be like in a workspace. You'd have your desk, and you'd get gossip at the water cooler. Hey, so-and-so is getting married, and so-and-so just had a kid, and what did you do with it over the weekend? And the lunchroom, you'd get those impromptu discussions. Hey, can we sit together and talk about the project? You wanted to talk to your boss or somebody. Hey, Bill, Jane, can I interrupt for a second? Can I knock on your door, come to your room? And then there was that commute. I live in New Jersey. I've lived near Manhattan my entire career. You know, that's an hour back and forth. It's 2 hours a day, 50 weeks a year. It's a lot of time spent on some really awful New Jersey transit trains. That doesn't exist anymore, at least not in newer companies. That exists. I see what my colleagues are doing on Facebook. How many people here are Facebook friends with coworkers? You see what your coworkers are doing over the weekend. Their family pictures, the fun stuff. That's the water cooler. And there are things like Yammer and Jive and intercompany social media. That's that lunchroom opportunity where you get that experience. The knock on your desk, that happens with Skype for Business, or Link, or Java, or some other instant messaging client. Who knows the most common instant message sent in the world? Anyone?
Are you there?
Are you there? You've heard this before. Hey. Platform. Oh, there we go. Oh, we lost the platform there. That knock on the door is replaced by a quick instant message. Hey, Bill, can I talk to you? Can you hear a second? And then you press a button and we're having a video conversation. And then there's those 2 hours we were talking about. They don't exist. And there's a really interesting survey that was done by Stanford University. If anybody's interested, let me know and I'll find it for you. That said 90% of that work time is returned to the employer. People are more productive in that commute time. But they're happier. They're having a better time with it. So all of this new way of working is something that's just revolutionizing the space. We can talk about environments. I don't spend a lot of time on that. If any of you are around California and Santa Clara, by all means, visit Plantronics. They are the poster child for setting up a future office. They've got some technologies in there that are outstanding. Open, airy, hoteling workspaces, something that they call a biophilic technology, which replaces the white noise that you put in open spaces with trickling water, and it works better. It's really cool. What we have to talk about is what we used to talk about in yesterday's office, and what we need today in tomorrow's office. It's not enough to have AV technology, just let us hear the colleague, or see the colleague. We've had that. Or the presentation, we kind of have had that. Whiteboarding, how many of you people have a whiteboard in the room and then can see what's going on if somebody's joining that room remotely? They become a second-class citizen. They can't see what's being drawn, unless you've got technology to do that. What about looking around? If you've got a video conference system in a room, okay, maybe the remote person can see who's talking. But you right now can look at my panelists and see if they think I'm out of my mind or not. You have that option to see what they're reacting, or each other. Somebody joins this remotely, they don't have that option. We need to develop those technologies so that the remote participant isn't a second-class citizen anymore. Meeting rooms. Okay, I debated whether or not I should put this slide in this presentation, but I will. I'm going to give you a 2-minute history lesson of the meeting room. That's a room, right? Everybody with me? That's a table in the middle of the room? We need to have meetings in this. You can turn around if you want to see this. This is cool. We wanted to have meetings in this room, right? And now somebody wasn't able to make the meeting. So what do we have to put in the room? Anybody?
Chairs.
Well, chairs, obviously, technology. Phone, speakerphone, Polycom speakerphone. Everybody knows what that looks like. But then we had this annoying guy at the end of the table here that said he couldn't hear the call, right? He was too far away from me, he couldn't hear the phone. So what did we do in response to that? We added 2 microphones. To this day, I don't understand why we added microphones when he said he couldn't hear. But that's what we did. We put a whiteboard in, right? How to do all that whiteboarding? Then we added a display here, but wait a minute, this is getting to be a really complicated room, right? We got 3 remotes sitting on the desk and nobody knows how to use them. We got to do something. Oh, first we finally caved in to the guy. Okay, we put some speakers in the ceiling. And then, how do we raise the volume? How do we operate the screen? What do we do? We put a control system in the room. Usually took the form of maybe a volume control or some switches on the wall or panel over there, right? Then it got really more complicated. We had video conferencing. And maybe we had a couple of extra screens. Oh my God, now that thing on the wall, that's not going to work. Now we got to bring somebody in on that control system. Then we got to make it a customized control system and put the name of the company on the panel, because Lord knows when you came to work this morning, you forgot the name of the company you were working for. The message I have to you is this doesn't work. We did this, 1987. This is a form, the design was built in 1987 for the Workspace. Oh my God, was it expensive. It still is, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 integrated rooms to do this in many cases. You got 10 to 20 different components from different manufacturers. Those are a security risk now. They're all running on your IP port. When was the last time any of them were patched? When was the last time any of them were scanned? And the worst case is people really didn't use them. They hated going to them, or they used them but they didn't use the technology. What's the future look like? Same room, same table? Now we have a thing here in the front of the room. I'm not talking about a manufacturer or a product, I'm talking about a thing. Some of these exist, and some of them are coming. This thing has a display, or multiple displays. It has this on top, that's a camera array. Maybe the camera array takes the form of 2 cameras that switch back and forth. Maybe it's a big 4K, 8K processor that's electronically switching. That technology exists today. Some of the exhibitors are showing you. It has a speaker array and a microphone array on it. Picks up all the speakers, beamforming array, picks up whatever's set in the room. Sound comes right out of the front of it. You know how long it takes to install? Hour or 2. You know how expensive it is? Not $80,000, $90,000. Oh, and the control system. You're carrying it. You walk up to it. Hold up your phone. It recognizes it. It says, hey Dave, you got a meeting now. Want to start it? You press yes. Bits and pieces of that technology exist today. It's not the future, it's now. And it fits in any size room. They're affordable for every room. They're safe and reliable. And they remove that in-office bias. People can look around and see and hear from wherever they want, do the whiteboarding, everything else. So that was the history of the conference. And collaboration. Collaboration has these 4 tenets: communication, agreements, actions, and outcomes. There is no collaboration unless you have all 4 of those. But we can now achieve those from anywhere. You don't have to be in the same room. So all of this, you guys got the flavor of what I'm talking about here. Reduce absenteeism, more productivity, less expensive for the company, less real estate, less technology, reduce travel time. Everybody loves it. It's definitely the way of the future, and it's where workspaces are going. But the key is that it's not future. It's now. It's things you can see in bits and pieces on the floor if you connect the dots. I'm giving you some examples here. I am advocating for no one's technology. Everybody has good stuff, everybody has bad stuff. I'm just showing you some examples of what I know that exists today. Anybody ever heard of the TouchJet Wave? Brand new product about to be shipped, a company called TouchJet, touchjet.com. It's a little Android thing you stick on top of an 8-inch flat panel, and it's an interactive whiteboard. Electronic whiteboard. $199. Go to touchjet.com and look for it. Is it a great product? Is it an enterprise product? Will it take over the space? I don't know. I doubt it. $200. Certainly not $20,000 that one of the manufacturers is talking about with some of their technology on the floor. Very changing in space. This device over here, Cisco SX10. Remember I told you about how the phone would recognize you and you'd be able to swipe up and do your meeting? That's our control of it. Cisco's showing that at Enterprise Connectivity this year. It only works on their Spark client now, but it'll work on all their clients. That's today. This piece here in the middle from Logitech, that's their conference cam hub, conference cam system, I forget the name of it. It's $1,000. Think about that. It's a pan-tilt zoom HD camera with a computer that can, do Skype for Business, that can do Zoom, can do WebEx, can do whatever you need in any conference room without the display, it's $1,000. How can integrators compete? How can you? Does it have management capabilities? No. Does it have a lot of extended features? No. It's $1,000 conference room. It works pretty well. And then this thing here by Alti Systems, Panicast 2. Remember how much we used to pay for those immersive rooms when they came out? It's also $1,000. But it's a standard USB camera. You can get a wide shot or be able to electronically zoom in on anyone for $1,000. And standard USB. Run it with whatever client you like. And then it's at the low end. At the high end, the complex, expensive solutions that we're still going to need integrators for, very specialized and customized. A couple of examples here. Polycom's Central. What did we call that when they were building that? There was a campfire? Wildfire? Was that? Bonfire. Everybody sitting around the bonfire. Then you have a piece of technology there, Oblong's Mezzanine. That's where we're all using the Wii remotes, right? Steve, waving it around and being able to move it, we've seen it. So all new human factors, all these futuristic technologies on the show floor now, they're a reality. You can go see them. For the most part, they're optimized for like-to-like counterparts. So you're not going to connect to this from a mobile device. You're going to connect to this from another one at another location. But it's out there now. So the future is really awesome. And now. And changing very rapidly. And we got a bunch of people that are going to explain all that to you, because I can't figure it out. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Ken, why don't we start with you? Your name, where you're from, and what's your perspective as an
Well, I woke up last Thursday. I was the president of IMCCA. By the end of the day, we were acquired by Kindeco Software, so I'm part of the Kindeco Software family. I think I may have a different perspective from the other panelists on here. As we look at the two most expensive costs you have in your environment, one is the real estate and the other is the people, and how do you best manage those? MyVRM traditionally looked at the collaboration space and how do you best manage the collaboration space. On the Kindeco side, it's really about the real estate and the facilities and how do you best manage the facility space. An average conference room today, cost of the real estate is $35,000 a year. The average utilization of that is about 50%. If you look at a desktop environment, the utilization of the desktop environment is about 34%. A conference room is about 36%. And a huddle space is around 44%. So before you start building these rooms or whatever flavor or type of rooms that you have, how do you best make sure that you're utilizing the real estate best? And that's what we're about. That's how we're coming.
I'm Amy Barstukas. I'm with Polycom. And when we think about this, we've been talking about the workplace of the future for a while. Internally, we sometimes talk about it as the incredible shrinking workspace because the amount of real estate being allocated to offices is now reflecting both the financial reality and the fact that at any given day between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., roughly 50% of office space is not being occupied. So yes, mobile workers, and we do an extraordinary amount of work to enable that mobile worker, but we're also very, very invested in helping companies make their workspace the best place for employees to come when they do come to the office and helping to balance out. There's a tremendous amount that you can do, obviously, via video, but there are some things that are still left best done face-to-face. And so really helping to balance that with a consistent experience across the board is a real focus.
Great. Thanks, David.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Danny Rogers. I'm the Vice President at AVI-SPL. AVI-SPL is the world's biggest system integrator. Interesting to listen to a lot of the comments because as a global organisation, we're finding more than ever that the consumer market is actually driving enterprise. Over years in the past, we used to go to the office and we used to have, in terms of 4K screens and the quality of the technology, would then filter down over years into the domestic market. No longer is that the case. It's actually the consumer driving their demand. BYOD, taking their laptop, taking their iPad, taking their phone to work. And we're seeing that as a key driver in terms of a lot of the technology uses and demands. I would also suggest, and I'm sure we'll get this during the conversations today and questions, is that it's ever more difficult for end users to make a decision on technology. When you look at the collective people on the board, they actually need the expertise and knowledge base that we collectively have to help them make that decision. And when you actually bring together all those silos of technology, that's where they actually need more and more help. So you bring together a video world, a WebEx world, an audio world. How do you bring those together? How do you make it work? How do you make it robust? And then ultimately, how do you get return on investment? Well, I think the biggest value that partners like ourselves can add is putting the technology into your businesses is relatively straightforward. Actually getting people to adopt, use, and then actually maximise that is the key. And I think that's something we're also measuring today. So the last thing I would add in terms of those individuals coming into the workplace, everyone hears the phrase about millennials. People of my age and generation will be long gone out of the workplace when people of 20 to 25 are actually in it and demanding this technology that you've seen David put up there and the way they work. The workplace or workspace is no longer where you go to work, it's what you do. And I think we're going to hear more of that in this panel session today. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Steve.
Yeah, so Steve Pryor, I'm over at Oblong, and so we're creating Mezzanine, the immersive visual collaboration solution. So I think being able to bring both those high-end rooms that David was talking about earlier, but also having the flexibility to connect to those rooms by any device anywhere in the world is a really important factor as well. And I think never forget the post-sale side of things as well. So whether you're a customer or a reseller and partner, making sure that the users of the system understand the capabilities, because we've actually got some clients that are using their mezzanine rooms with 80 or 90% utilisation as a waiting time to actually get into those rooms. Because if you really understand the value of working differently and working in those immersive collaboration rooms, then it's something that people strive to use, because it can deliver much more quicker outcomes or win you more business, depending on the nature of your area. So very interesting to see the comments and discussions we have here today.
Thank you, Jason.
I'm Jason Moss. I lead our go-to-market team at Logitech, the video collaboration group. We are part of that consumer technology that has gone into the enterprise. They kind of dragged us in there. We didn't really plan on it, but about 5 years ago we saw a lot of our consumer devices being used just because the solutions out there were just too expensive or too cumbersome to get out there and enable all these different people what they wanted to do. So we created a division to start focusing on taking our consumer technology and we're tailoring it for the enterprise and making sure this is great. And the key thing that we really focus on is typically in any meeting that's happening today, very much like the slides David showed, is that on average 3 to 4 people are connected to that meeting. So different endpoints, whether it's your phone, your cell phone, and just audio calling in, you're on a speakerphone, you're on video, whatever. But those meetings aren't good unless you're seen and heard crystal clear. People understand you, you can understand the other people. So what we do at Logitech is really focus on making sure that everybody who's connecting into that meeting can have that great audio quality experience, but also we say everybody by driving down the prices. So it's not just the high-end rooms that are enabled or just the executives who have the rules, it's everybody in your workforce can be enabled to have those experiences.
Thank you, Jordan.
How you guys doing? I'll bring up the rear apparently on the end cap over here, so sorry for you guys. So Jordan Owens, I'm the Vice President of Architecture at Pexip. Pexip is a software-only virtualized distributed collaboration platform that enables organization and users of all different backgrounds and all different types to connect into a single meeting at any time, any point from any device on any client. We normalize and maintain the native user experience so that no matter what client you're using, I can have access to the full feature set, whether it's voice, video, content, chat, all of those types of capabilities, all within the same meeting experience without impacting the user experience of others. And I think the only other point that I'd like to add, I think there's some great comments that are made, is we're starting to see collaboration take a whole different level in terms of how organizations leverage it in terms of the work that they do. And they're starting to use collaboration to reach out to the customer base and reach out to their users and connect with them at a more robust and more profound level. And what that's allowing organizations to do is tie collaboration resources directly to their revenue line item rather than always being an IT cost line item. And now it becomes more native not only to the organization in the way that they use it internally, but to their natural way of working. In fact, we have data from our specific customers, but it applies across all of us, which says organizations are much more able to convert their customers to either staying with or adopting their solutions simply because they're using video collaboration to do so. In fact, there's one specific customer that we're working with that has gone from a 20% conversion rate to 85% simply by rolling out Pexit, but to be fair, collaboration technology within the way that they interact with external environments. And so, to me, this concept of workspaces of tomorrow is as impactful in how you interact with other organizations at all times from anywhere around the world while maintaining the business-grade and business-quality experience you should have with anybody, no matter what they have or where they connect from and what resources they have access to.
Okay, great. And you can swing around so you're facing the way. I'm not sure why it's facing this way.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I just sit where I'm told, man.
That's your chair, but you can move it. Okay. So the first question that I have for you guys is, if I'm taking on the persona of somebody sitting in the audience that's got collaboration rooms, maybe they've got 20, 30 of the standard integrated rooms, and they're looking and they're seeing their real estate shrink, and they know they need to change. Where do they start? What's the first thing they should do? Should they be looking at technology? Should they be looking at infrastructure? Should they be looking at people? How does somebody go in and start to adapt this concept of the workspace for everyone? And you guys can free for all. Just fight with each other. Just start talking.
I'll jump in first. I think you have to understand the utilization of your workforce and how the workforce is using the facilities they have, how they're using the technology that they have. I went into a customer a few years back and he said, I have $5 million to spend on building new rooms. I'm like, great, how are you using your existing rooms? I don't know. And so before you go start building rooms, right, you have to understand how your workforce works in that environment.
Yeah, I'll add that real quickly, just say behavior, right? I mean, it's all about behavior. I think very quickly, and to be fair, the industry has driven it this way over time. I mean, I've been in the video conferencing industry for longer than I'd like to count myself, right? But it's this conversation, we've always talked about speeds and feeds on my H264 is better than your H264 type of thing. But I think now, the industry in and of itself has matured to be this concept of behavior and how do end users actually want to connect and collaborate. And ultimately, to me, whether it's rooms, whether it's desktops, whether it's immersive rooms, executive rooms, home offices, whatever the case may be, the ultimate question needs to be, how do your users actually want to interact? Forget technology.
It's how do your users want to interact today, and how do you want your users to interact as well? So I met with a customer last week who was moving from relatively suburban offices into a downtown location, in part because they want to be able to hire younger talent for whom that location is much more attractive. And so as they're looking at their build out and how they build it, they want it to be comfortable for the people who use it and how they use it today. So they don't want to freak them out, but they also want it to be attractive and modern and an appealing thing, because your physical plant is a huge recruiting tool. It says a lot about your culture. And so I think I would say start with people.
I'd add to that. If anyone thinks those conversations are 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years away, they're not. Those conversations are actually taking place now. They're taking place in your offices, your companies, and it tends to vary very slightly depending on the business vertical. The top end of town, the enterprise customers that have always been somewhat risk averse, when it comes to cloud-based products and such like, are actually now investigating and searching and looking at those solutions, whether it's on-prem, whether it's hybrid, or whether it's in the cloud. So from our research collectively, I guess from everybody on this panel, is that if anyone thinks they are, years away, they're not. They're actually taking place now. And where those companies have been risk averse in terms of migrating to particularly cloud-based technologies, they are now accepting that they can be secure, they can be robust, and more importantly, they can actually migrate from an investment, as we've seen David talk about the room in terms of a CapEx versus an OpEx model. That becomes much more attractive. And to the point made about attracting new staff and new individuals, to attract those individuals, they are actually making decisions on going where to work based on their flexibility and indeed their ability to work any place, anytime, anywhere. And this is not just some marketing sales pitch, they're genuinely happening. And you notice none of us have actually mentioned particularly product or companies, but those technologies more than anything else.
I think it's about the business outcome side of it as well. So looking at what are they trying to use those rooms for, what are they trying to achieve as a business, and how can collaboration technology be used to speed up the decision-making process, or the old adage, reducing travel, or whatever it is that they're trying to achieve from within their business. And really, talking heads video and a single PowerPoint slide being presented, that's not collaboration anymore. It really is bringing together many different data sources and allowing people to collaborate on their own device from anywhere in the world, and really bringing that together. So it's no longer the need to create, one big meeting space. It's being able to connect to those meeting spaces from anywhere you are, where you need to collaborate from.
Maybe Dave, one last comment on that. We've identified this phenomenon that we call user workflow fatigue, where you have a technology and you have to use a certain workflow for that technology. When technology changes, you need another workflow.
UWF, user workflow fatigue. Yeah,
Exactly
that's
right.
a good syndrome.
So it's a rampant syndrome out there. So I think one of the things that we have to do as part of the industry is try to have a single workflow that accounts for different underlying technologies within that environment as well.
So if I ask the devil's advocate question, and guys forgive me because I don't feel this way, but if I ask it, why hasn't FaceTime put you all out of business? Why aren't you unemployed? We have everything we need on a smartphone. It's an app away. It costs nothing. It's free. Why are we doing business with you guys anymore?
I think it's fair to say from the FaceTime perspective, bear in mind that has, back to the original point, consumer driving enterprise. So it's not an enterprise class product, it can't do reporting, it can't scale up to various other aspects. And you also think about the point about the technology silos. So if you've got a traditional video estate, whether it's whether it's Polycom, whether it's Cisco, you've got a Microsoft estate, you use WebEx, you're looking to bring in external customers, you're looking to give your employees VMRs. There is a capability now to bring all that together. I'm slightly putting it down the end of the road because PEXA kind of offers that. But equally, there is now all those silos of technology that you can bring in together in one place. FaceTime, to answer the question, doesn't actually fit into that place.
Who wants to sit there for an hour in front of my view? It's not very comfortable and business-like.
Well, it's also, it drives a particular culture, which is a culture of individuality, right? Because it's you and your device. And what you want in a corporate environment is you want some sort of shared culture.
Inclusive,
Right?
So,
Yeah, and
go
I think also you lose a lot of context when you have single point devices, because most of the time I'm in a meeting, I'm not necessarily staring at the person who's talking, I'm looking around, seeing how people are reacting. You guys are looking at Jordan to see if he's rolling his eyes at me right now. That's the thing that starts
So I'll actually say it has put us out of business, but not in the way that everybody views it put us out of business. It has forced us as vendors to change the way that we do business and interact with our customers in a different way. Because it is this concept of consumer driving the enterprise now. It is this world where I want something to reach every device. And no matter if Danny's on an iPhone and Dave, you're on an Android, and I may have let's be honest, I don't have a Windows phone, but somebody has some other kind of device. I should be able to connect and I should be able to collaborate without compromising your user experience. And that is something that this FaceTime mantra has driven in all of us. Everybody on this panel and others that aren't represented on the panel have had to adapt the way that we do business and the way that we make, sell, and collaborate with our
And
clients.
it's
which
changed
doesn't-
the expectations
Exactly.
and the willingness to struggle with complexity.
Absolutely.
If I can push a button here and it works, I'm not going to walk into this room and try to figure out between 3 different remote controls how to make this happen. That's no longer acceptable.
If you reflect back to just the audio conference, a lot of companies still only have audio conferencing, but how long can you really keep your attention span on an audio only call? I think people now expect to have a much more immersive and collaborative experience when they're interacting with their work colleagues. Because I can do it, I can phone home for free to my wife on FaceTime, and that's a perfectly good short interaction session. It's much better than just an audio cool, but it's not really something that you're going to want to make key decisions in your business over that.
It's also that the technology gatekeepers used to be the rule police. Used to be no.
Yes.
No, you can't do this. No, I'd like to use Skype. No, you're not allowed to use Skype. You have to use our solution. No, you're not allowed to do this. And users used to accept that because they had no choice. Now every no is, okay, fine, no problem, bye, and then they take out their device and open up an app and do what they wanted to do anyway. So no becomes non-compliance, as opposed to, instead of saying no, saying, what would you really like to do? Let's come up with a compliance solution that meets your needs around collaboration. So again, I'm still stuck with that piece, and I'm going to come back to it, we've spoken to people, we understand what our use cases are, very good advice, people first all the time. How do you decide if you're putting in $1,000 rooms, $10,000 rooms, hardware rooms, software rooms? What should somebody do? It's a very confusing way of approaching the space right now with all the disruption. Where should people be looking at? What should be the highest priorities?
I think one of the highest priorities right now is just building for flexibility because we just don't know at this point in time. There's so many changes that are happening in this industry. So one of the biggest statistics are now that 60% of all people say that their UC planning needs to connect to their traditional meeting room. That's a big change from when traditional meeting rooms stood on their own. But now you look down the road, now there's all these different applications like Slack, or even if you look at something that's within a workflow like Jira, Atlassian just bought Jitsi, a video bridge, you're going to just add voice and video into these different programs. And you might be in an engineering scrum room and you want to just load up Jira and do a debug, or you're in a marketing meeting, you want to pull up salesforce.com and see the marketing campaigns. The younger generation is getting used to this concept that is driven by the cell phone, which is best of breed apps. Right? You've got your specific app, you go to that app because that app tells me the best way to get home, or it's the best weather. That one app doesn't do everything for me. And so this whole concept of best of breed applications and workflows are going to come into the meeting room and workspace. And so you need to build something that's flexible, that can handle whatever the next best of breed app is going to be 6 months from now.
But not limited to only one app at a time either. You need to have multiple content sources because it's really important to get that real-time data to be able to make an informed decision, not just someone's desktop or someone's PowerPoint slide that's being presented. It's being able to present multiple data sources simultaneously and from anywhere in the world, because it could be that the subject matter expert isn't in the office, he's somewhere remote, so being able to connect them in and sharing their data sources along with others. Really important.
So specific to your question about where do you start? So if you say, look, we got to start with people, then you need to look, okay, what kind of organization are you? Because different organizations have different key priorities. If you're in a regulated organization, or if you're in a healthcare banking or thing where there's a lot of security requirements, those have different needs. You need to look at what do you have an investment in your existing plant. Do you have a deep investment in Cisco? You want to continue to amortize those investments even as you go to who knows what comes next. Are you going to Office 365? So are you looking to chart a path? And so as you look at the culture, the environment, what works for your users, and then start to break down what are those priorities, because in many cases it's going to be very different for different companies and they will come to different answers because there is no really one size fits all.
And that's why it's important that no matter what you do from an organizational perspective, that you have to maintain this concept of connectivity. And I think we overuse the term interoperability, but it extends beyond just the game called experience, right? Because we all don't know what's going to happen, and even if we're up here saying, oh, I know exactly what the next 12 months is going to do, we're all lying to you, right? I mean, the reality is none of us know what's going to happen. None of us know what's around the corner. And we're all just doing whatever we can to try to not only just stay ahead of the curve, but enable you guys to make better decisions with the products and with the solutions that you roll out. And you have to think about what this concept of interoperability truly means. And interoperability is all about how do I maintain the experience that users expect to have at the time they expect to have it without compromising anybody else's user experience? How do I enable things like web connectivity? How do I enable remote parties to join into a meeting? How do I enable Office 365 pivot points and more consumer-grade technologies venturing their way into the marketplace? How do I enable still protecting that executive experience who maybe has to have something a little bit more of the quote-unquote old-school way of doing things because that's what they know and that's what they've come to love? And you have to maintain that. And everybody up here has that exact same concept. We all have our own little twists and takes on it, but it's that the exact same fundamental concept that has to be core to video.
I think it's fair to add as well, talk about old school. Someone's been in the video industry for 22 years. Every year comes to the new calendar year. I think this is going to be the inflection point of video, and it's going to go over the top and we can sell lots of video. Well, do you know what? We are selling lots of video, but we're changing the dynamic of how video consumption is, and that's the fundamental difference. So in answer to the question, I guess, is that those $60,000 video rooms are becoming less, but they're still being used and they're still proliferated, but they're actually being used in conjunction with different types of rooms. So if you believe the latest stats, there's 50 million potential huddle rooms available for us to go and put a Logitech camera in, or we're going to put a VR in, we're going to put a cloud-based service in for those people, or we're going to put a Microsoft Surface Hub in. So video is all pervasive, it's all...
Anybody putting a Microsoft Surface Hub in?
Yeah.
One. Okay, just checking.
I'll get your name later.
I always want people to keep me honest with that, so I'm going to get in trouble.
And I think to somewhat mitigate against not knowing what the future may hold, that's where software and cloud-based solutions have really started to gain additional traction, because they give you that flexibility. If you buy a hardware solution which has a pretty much fixed configuration about what it can do, there may be some minor tweaks from that, but with a software or cloud-based solution, you can overnight completely change and adapt the functionality of that solution to meet the new needs of the company, rather than be locked in and have a forklift upgrade to the next hardware solution that only does the X, Y, Z out of the box of when you bought it.
This is a loaded question by David, because without understanding user use cases, there really is no answer to this thing. Right? So you have to understand what each individual unit within an organization needs to accomplish.
But are there some basic guidelines, like, hey, start doing this way for you say,
Hold on, let's let everybody know that. Just say you need to hear.
But, so, we're getting ready to redo 100 plus. And you say that you don't know what's coming down the pipeline. So, just don't do anything.
No, I think what we would propose specifically to our own solution is just general computing power, something that you can take and change over the course of time, just as we said here. So you can now, with cloud-based computing or cloud-based video conferencing and communications services, all you need is a general purpose PC to run those applications locally. And you outfit it with high-quality audio-video peripherals so there's good sound, and then you install the software onto the system. But 2 years from now, you don't like that, you don't throw away all that investment of hardware. You bring in the next cloud platform, or maybe you keep that on there, but you add a second one. So you can build with the products that we have today, the price performance computing curve that come down so low that for a very inexpensive cost, you can buy something that can run pretty much anything you're going to need it to run.
I think there's an interoperability in our industry now, which means whatever you buy today, the likelihood in 5 years' time it'll still be interoperable with what you decide to buy moving forward. I'm personally working with a bank who have 1,200 endpoints. They want to migrate into a cloud-based service, and they want to bring their Microsoft world into that. In years gone by, it would be you have to get rid of your 1,200 endpoints and your bridging and throw it away, but no longer, because it becomes interoperable. All those days of standards-based and interoperability, have become finally interoperable. So when you make the decision, it will have to be, to the point made, it will have to be based on what those rooms are used for. The exec rooms still haven't gone away, particularly in the, say, the financial and the legal sector. But the huddle room is demanded. Home workers are demanding more to be collaborating with their colleagues. So you have to consider when you make that decision what you want to do. And furthermore, if you want any bridging amongst all of that, or if not, you want to actually have that hosted for you. So as I said at the beginning, I think the migration from a CapEx to an OpEx model is one of the key considerations, and then becomes a consumption model that you're actually going to use as an organization.
It's all about driving flexibility and adoption, right? You know your users best. You know what behaviors drive them best. So make sure that the solution that you come up with has the ability to not only to provide what they need today, but again, adapt as your needs change, because your needs will be different next year. Your users will be different next year. Your use cases will be different next year, and you'll be using collaboration and other resources in a different way. So make sure that no matter which way you go about within those rooms, they can be adapted. And I would also encourage you guys to be honest, experiment with something. You know, take 10 of the rooms and roll 3 out in this form, and 2 out in that form, and 4 out in that form, and see what happens, right? Make sure that you have a good mix in your user base, and give them some interesting options. And your users will, 1, tell you what works and what doesn't, right? They all do. And then 2, you'll be able to see more. You'll be able to see more impact directly into your business and how the business itself adapts to these technologies.
Do you know that question comes back?
Really, I'm taking this now.
That question comes back the other way, which is, what is your judgment of the criteria of success? How do you see it? Do you want 100% usage? Do you want 50% usage? Do you want better collaboration?
Yeah.
The questions will come back to you that way, and then you can start to map that
So
out.
if you want utilization, right, the 2 key are ubiquity and consistency, right? People don't want to have to learn 700 different ways to join a call. They just don't. And so the more consistent the experience is, which is not to say you have identical necessarily equipment, but you're looking for common iconography, one click to join, things like that make it easy for people, and you don't have to get the IT call that says, can you come set up this meeting for me, please, right? You don't want that. Ease of schedule, ease of joining, and making it broadly available so it's not just sitting in some rarefied air that is hard to schedule and hard to find.
I would say our panelists are being very nice. If you want specifics, you should get each of them outside.
Yeah, and are the rooms connected to each other? You know, are they more standalone rooms? Is it, you know, understanding a bit about the use case? Yeah.
The other thing that I'll say also in answer to that question is that stunningly, and I can't believe this because how long I've been looking at this, there are still solutions on the market today, and I think some of them even on the floor today, that are silent, that are completely incompatible with everything else. And they're marketing, and you can read about them in Wired, and they're doing webinars about how terrific it is. Everybody just gave up on something and what the siloed solution that only works for you. Don't fall for that. Don't. Interoperability is a given nowadays. We've been fighting for it for so many years. Buy systems that have some way of interoperating with the other systems. So you can put in the blend that works for your organization. Some complex rooms, some specific purpose rooms, but they all at least work together when necessary. Because none of us want to be in the position of advocating for spending a lot of money on a whole bunch of solutions and then having to tell a senior person, no, we can't do that.
And on any device, and you know, now I don't have to ask you what phone network you're on to phone you. I just make a phone call. Same with video, you just need to be able to connect and bring your devices in and collaborate as part of the session.
Any other questions? Yeah,
The next someone on this side's going to ask the question today.
Yeah.
So you're just going to go.
That's his exercise.
Don Fisher with the Sexton Group. So really what we're talking about is creating workspaces that my children can use organically. So what's your advice for implementing and getting users of our generation to use that technology and embrace those spaces and say, this is the coolest thing since whatever? What's your thoughts about how to make that work?
Well, I am of that generation, so I think it's fair to say that I think we're trying to revert back to the consumer driving the device because that's the key thing. I don't think you can more or less judge people of maybe our generation compared to the younger generation because they are using this. You know, I heard the stat that the 5th most used feature on an iPhone is a phone. To make a telephone call, which is kind of interesting.
Can anyone lend me their iPhone manual? You don't get a manual with your iPhone or your iPhone.
That's a good point. You don't get manual.
You just use it.
Just go to YouTube and find it. So I don't think there's any specific answer in terms of user adoption. I think that is often driven by an organisation. It's amazing how people use things when you start using other things when you take their standard platform away. I'm still amazed. I went to a meeting a couple of days ago. A guy turned up and he printed out every email preparation, but it was of an older generation. Kids don't do that anymore. They multitask and they come in with everything. So taking stuff away and forcing people to do it is the only way. And in 10 years' time, we won't never have this conversation. It won't take place.
I'm not sure in entirely agree. I think it takes time, right? And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a positive way. You got to remember, users. Not my point, but yeah.
You're one of those
The point is, right, well, I think we give the millennial generation a little bit too much credit because they've had years and years of training. How? They just grew up with this stuff. It's been natural training, but it's been training. We can't expect any generation of any background to simply walk into something that they've never been exposed to in the past and understand how to work it. They don't have that exposure. It takes time and it takes effort to do that. And what things work well in your organization are all going to be different, but concepts around mentorship programs where now the younger generation is contributing to the older generation. It develops that level of personal connectivity. It develops that level of interpersonal relationships and so on. How can we all get connected together and provide bi-directional feedback and coaching on how to leverage technology in this case, but then other leadership capabilities that the experience of the older generation
So
brings?
we keep talking about smartphones and consumer technology. In the United States, for those of you who are not here, we have just begun rolling out chip readers for our credit cards, right?
Sure.
So how many different permutations of paying for things have you encountered lately? So you stand there like helpless with this credit card, like, okay, I don't know, do I swipe it or should I stick it in now? I don't know. Oh no, we're not ready for the PIN thing. Just do this thing. And so in 3 years' time, we'll all know how to use them, right? But in the meantime, you hope that enter means the same thing on this device as it means on that device, and they can just go.
But I think as vendors we can help around making it an intuitive product to use. So obviously, we talked about Apple being quite an intuitive product. I think, with Mezzanine, our walk-up experience, you walk into the room and you see a cable, you're kind of familiar with that, you plug it into your laptop and your laptop appears on the screen. So that's quite an intuitive thing to do. If you use your laptop, use your iPad on there, the same kind of swiping user interface does things on the screen that you would expect it to do, because that's the way apps work on an iPhone. And as you become a more familiar user with the room, and anyone walks past to see our wand system in operation, it's really a point and click and move objects around. It's quite a natural thing to do, to pick up. You mentioned a Wii earlier. We talked about comparing our wand to a Wii remote. It's a bit like comparing Harrods to be a corner shop. Those of you know Harrods, it's quite a big corner shop. So, but
we don't make lovingly in the industry.
yeah, but still picking up the wand and moving things around. It's a very natural, intuitive thing to do. So I think as vendors, we can do a lot to help that transition and usability.
Well, I would say, just to kind of add in, I mean, it does sound a little harsh and we're not always bringing people along, but sometimes the best way to do it is just rip off the Band-Aid. I take this quote from one of our end customers. He instituted this policy. He called it, "The meeting is the meeting. This is how we're meeting." And he gave a flexible solution that allowed people to either dial in or do video or anything like that. Anytime the meeting was set up, though, that was the meeting. And it drove adoption, and it drove people kind of getting around it. I think where we run into a lot of these problems is where we have the mixed use environments where you're doing a little this over here, you're doing a little this over there. Somebody's still, holding on to their desk phone and says, "I'm going to make a call here," and you're not really forcing them into something. Very much like the credit card analogy, right? It's a mixed use environment. You have no idea if we're using a chip or swiping or by phone. You just kind of have to move in a direction, and that would be the recommendation I would give an organization. The meeting is the meeting.
And I do think there's an onus on us to make things easier to use regardless of who you are.
Well, it is.
If you look at some historical things, they're an embarrassment of who could ever have figured that out.
Yeah.
But if you do, then you were the smart guy, right? So now, I think taking cues from smartphones, from the iconography, from what people expect, think, what should happen, user research, stuff like that. And
It
One
is.
more point.
Okay.
One point on this. I still don't think that technology trumps culture. Right? So your point of somebody at the top saying, "I'm going to change and this is the way we're going to do it." We had a customer who had 475 conference rooms that they used and they managed and they had white glove service. They said, "You know what? The millennials are coming." They dropped it to about 125, and guess what? They missed the mark, and now they're up to about 276, 270. Right? So there's a fine balance there of the right technology for the right part of the organization. And if you're going to change it for the millennials, it has to happen from the top down, or it's not going to happen.
It is fair to say, as an AV industry, as a legacy AV guy, I certainly consider myself that, even though I'm in the IT space now, that we got our clocks clean. We got it wrong. What we did, and I'm including myself in this, in the 1980s and 1990s, is we built rooms for us. We built rooms with touch panels. All right, what if some guy shows up from some computer out of the Eastern Bloc and needs a special connector, and I need a tools page, and I need to be able to adjust individual levels? So we built these complicated interfaces that we're comfortable using. And then we heard from the users who said, I ain't touching that. Or, where's my IT guy? Where's my AV guy? Bring him into the room. He's touching that. And what we've learned is instead of building these big, complex rooms that can do everything at any time for anybody, which is what we want, to be loaded for bear, they want rooms that can do one or two or three things really easily. And the way I describe this in a lot of my presentations is they want elevators. Every one of us goes into buildings every day we've never been in before, and we get on the elevator, and no one's given us training, and there are no leave-behind manuals, and all the buttons are always in different places, but we know how to use them, because they all follow a simple, basic schema. And as an industry, we forgot. That's what we need. And then the iPhone comes out, and the iPhone copies come out, and we realize, everybody understands swipe, everybody understands the big green button. That's all we really needed to do. We didn't need to do the rest of the stuff. It can be programmed there, but just in the background. I'll go around behind you.
Thank you. I want to bring the discussion back to the subject line, which is workforce for tomorrow. So far, I haven't seen megatrends emerging that we kind of agreed on or discussed as a main point. I'll give you one example. In the consumer market, the average age of viewing audience for TV is over 50 years old. This was 2010 data. Now it's probably way over 50. So what is the enterprise behavior of the equivalent of that? By the way, I'll take a few options away. BYOD and general movement to video.
Distribution.
What are the main things that you want to talk about that you think is the trend for tomorrow?
I think the main thing is exactly what David said in his intro, distribution, right? I mean, there's a million different stats that can say anything you want to say. One of the ones that we talk about a lot is the average worker within the Fortune 1000 spends 50 to 60% of the time away from his or her desk. Meaning, today. This is the way it is today. So where is it tomorrow? That's going to continue to increase in percentage, right? So it's all about this concept of distribution. And I need to be able to gain access to whatever resources I need, whenever I need them, wherever I happen to be.
Right, you have to think about wiring the employee rather than the space.
Yes.
And that is
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. It's talking about resources that are the work that gets done rather than where it needs to be done. Absolutely.
Remember the first question that I asked, are you working? And every single one of you raised your hand. So if any one of you needs to be on a call or get your email or get the list of your next class, we're assuming you've got a device that can do it. And that only happens if your workspaces are wired in the cloud or with your infrastructure.
You look at the cost of real estate, an office, how much a seat costs to plant someone's bottom on a seat in an office is very, very expensive per square meter. Therefore, more and more migration towards home workers. So those home workers is all very well and good, but the trend of the workplace of the future is how you make sure that that home worker is connected. And it's not just connected so you can manage them, but they feel connected with their work colleagues. And that is a really key point. As an example, I'll give you a European example. In London, the UK government are migrating 60,000 jobs away from central London to the home counties and letting people work at home. That's all great, but you've got to make sure they have the technology, and more importantly, you've got to feel part of that work.
Well, you want them to be engaged, right?
Absolutely.
Engaged employees are more productive employees. Steelcase has done a engagement survey worldwide with Ipsos, and the top 3 drivers of employee engagements: flexible workspace accommodations of some sort, employer-provided tablet, and access to video, right? And making that possible, easy to use, and really available. Huge difference.
I think the one thing I would add into this was we've all accepted that the workforce is distributed. That's the future of work. I don't think anybody really denies that, but we have to also consider the time element into it. And we really need to consider in our collaboration of the synchronous collaboration of audio and video, but the asynchronous collaboration. The big trend is, Google Docs or OneDrive, collaborative documents where I can be doing something at midnight. I don't have to be on call at 8 in the morning because I need to take my daughter to school. So you have to be able to think about collaboration, not just in a meeting and working something simultaneously, but have the tools to allow people to collaborate over the course of time and keep track.
One last question from back here.
Hello. How do you guys feel, or what do you guys feel is the most important trend in training new users?
Video. No, seriously, I am amazed, and I think all those of us who have millennials in our homes, for example, the things that my kids know how to do because they looked something up on YouTube. Kid walks down the other night going to prom, and I'm all ready to tie the bow tie for him, right? And it's perfect. It's like, how to get YouTube, right? So the availability of snack-sized video training is
I completely agree with that. What we do as an organisation when we launch a new service or product is actually put it on the company intranet. And they are bite-sized chunks. They're not 10, 15-minute videos. They are 90 seconds to 2.5 minutes. And that is, I want to make an external call. No longer do you go into a room and read a laminated sheet as part of an induction training, although believe me, I still see that from time to time. You actually go online and you induct into the business. For the first 2 weeks, you don't touch a telephone, you don't do anything, you learn how to use the technology, but you can learn it at midnight or at 9 o'clock in the morning. You don't have to be part of it.
But I think video goes some other way to doing that. But we actually have a post-sales, a technical account management program for our listening solutions where we actually go into the customer and understand their business desires and what they want to use the system for and help them to drive that. And I think still having that personal bit, because a video goes some way, but you still can't answer the question, right? So I think it's a mixture of that gets your ground level, your baseline, your foundations through video training, but then also having the ability to talk to a real person and having that interaction as well.
Yeah, I think the trend is really self-directed training because that's how we learn today. We go online, we search, we get something, we figure it out ourselves, so you just need to create, like you said, these bite-sized chunks of video, but also let people figure it out themselves. When I started at Logitech over 5 years ago, I spent 4 hours in IT training. Today, it's 30 minutes of our onboarding session. It's just, here's the stuff, here's where you go.
And it's wisdom of the crowd type thing.
But there's a robust amount of information placed there so that people can be self-directed in that.
But at the same time, it also doesn't absolve both vendors and the customers. Sweet, thanks for last time. This better be good. Both the vendors and the customers.
I'm sorry, we're out of time.
On solving the usability problem, the stuff's still too hard, right? And to the point that was made earlier on, an iPhone doesn't come with a manual, Android doesn't come with a manual, those types of things. We still have work to do to get there. Is it going to be there tomorrow? No. But we should be able to provide solutions that can be adapted to your environment so that your users can embrace them in an easier way. That training is still required, the bite-sized chunks is still important, but usability improvements still need to be made. We've got a long way to go to get there.
Let's have a quick round of applause for our panelists. Thank you very much. Any further questions, please come up. We'll be here for a few minutes. Thank you for attending. Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the show.